Can Kurt Cignetti and Indiana make history and go 7-0 as they host Nebraska and Matt Rule this weekend? Personally, it's possible. I think this is going to be the third best game of the college football slate this weekend. I'm ecstatic to see how these teams do with the spotlights of Big Noon on them. Just unbelievable stuff here. 11 a.m. kickoff. You know, when you're in college, you're not ecstatic for an 11 a.m. kickoff. But when you get into your mid-20s and you start waking up at 8 o'clock every single morning like clockwork, you get fired up for an 11 o'clock game. And that's what I am for Indiana and Nebraska. Kurt Cignetti has immediately turned this Indiana program into what looks like a Big Ten powerhouse. 6-0 so far. One of the best offenses in college football. But they go up against a Nebraska Cornhuskers team that plays physical and plays great defense. Currently, Nebraska is 8th in points per game allowed. I think they're 13th overall in total defense, and they've played some pretty high-powered offenses like Colorado, and they absolutely clamped them. Now, how did they do that? They stopped everything in their path when it came to the run. They are 3rd in yards per rush allowed. I think that's a very impressive statistics. That shows me that they force the other team to play one-dimensional football. And then when it comes to getting outside on these defensive backs for Nebraska, man, oh man, is it hard to throw on Nebraska. They are top 10 in the country in turnovers. I think that could play a strength when it comes to playing this Indiana team. They take advantage of situations and they do good things with the football when they get an opportunity. That's why I like Nebraska flipping to this Indiana team. Like I said, I think they're definitely top 5 in college football in scoring and overall offense off the charts. Curtis Rourke, a transfer from, I believe, Ohio, has been playing out of his mind this season. Kurt Cignetti has this offense just clicking on all cylinders, and they're just scorching every single team. They put up 41 points on Northwestern last weekend, but like I said earlier, they play a Nebraska team that they have not necessarily seen so far this season. They have to play physical. They have to play big. Can Indiana do that? The defense says they can. They are 16th in the country in rush yards per game allowed. They're 12th in the country in yards per pass allowed. That means that 1, they're stopping the run, and 2, they're stopping the big passes. They're stopping the big plays. And so when you have a team like that can play controlled offense and defense at the same time and run harmoniously together towards the finish line, you have a very magical team. They're 12th in points per game allowed, a little behind Nebraska, but nonetheless still very impressive. The thing I want to talk about, though, Curtis Rourke has been playing out of his mind. Well, he's been playing in a very specific offense that doesn't ask him to throw the ball 50 times a game. And quite frankly, I think he might have to if he wants to beat this Nebraska team. Currently, Indiana is 72nd in the country in passes per game. Once again, that tells me the offense is unbelievably efficient to the point that they get these massive leads, they score all these points, and then they don't have to pass the football anymore. They just run over and over and over again. To me, though, I think Matt Rule is a better prepper for Big Ten football. This guy has been in the space of Power 4 football before, and I'm sure he'll be there for the rest of his career. This is a game where I think Nebraska has a chance to outright win. They are 6.5-point underdogs, but they have a chance to come in and pull off an upset. They had a very disappointing loss to Illinois at the beginning of the year, but it seems like they're going to be able to rebound since then. On the road is tough. Their true freshman quarterback, Dylan Raiola, who I think is one of the best young quarterbacks we've ever seen in college football history, he has got to perform on the road. He hasn't had to do that much in his young career. He's going to have to do it here. So when it comes to an official prediction, quite frankly, I'm not giving one. I don't think that this game is that predictable. Indiana, it's a strength on strength battle. Indiana's really good offense versus Nebraska's stout and tough defense. Who wins in the battle of an unstoppable force and an immovable object? Only time will tell. That's how we're going to see in this game. But last but not least, let's talk about our EA College Football 25 model. I've been doing this for all of the big games this week and last week, running the simulations 50 times per matchup. So for the Indiana-Nebraska game, we ran a simulation in EA College Football 50 freaking times, and these are the results. I do want to say the quote-unquote model is performing at a pretty high level. 9-3 overall last week, 6-2 on official picks. I'm going to be riding with every single thing that this model is telling me outright in the 50 games. Indiana won 62% of the time. They only covered the spread 44% of the time. So what does that tell me? This matchup ends up being pretty close. A lot of these games ended with Indiana winning by 7 points. So that 6.5 line, really, really close. I think if you had to go with something, I would try to add a couple of points there onto Nebraska's spread. I'd take them plus 8.5. I would even consider taking them plus 7.5, but you'd have to show me a really good line with that on there. So now let's talk about the over-under. The over-under hit at a 60% to 40% clip. But to be honest, I'm not making this a pick from the model. The defensive ratings for Indiana are much lower in the game than they are probably in reality. I don't trust that part of the model, and so we're not going to make a pick here. We have no prediction for this game. If there was anything that I could tell you to do, it would be to magically figure out how to get Nebraska to be plus 10.5 at minus 160, but that's pretty much impossible. That's like trying to, buy a Ferrari with a $1,000 down payment. So, all that being said, that's our prediction for this game. No prediction, but this is a really interesting preview and a matchup that if you're a casual college football fan, you might not have been aware of, but if you are a diehard, man, you know about this game and you're fired up for it. That's going to do it for this preview. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.